I'm Suzanne Murdock, and welcome to Series 2 of Powering Productivity. Each episode, I explore the energy that connections, expertise, and being in your best flexible working environment can bring to not just your business, but to your whole life. So let's get started. Welcome, I'm your host, Suzanne Murdock, and today I'm with the lovely Tara Prendergast, CEO of the Biscuit Business School and the Biscuit Factory. She is a natural at empowering creatives and helping find people's best space to set up their business in. And I love the way that you break down those barriers and really, I guess, mental blocks that we often have as business owners, and really help map out strategies and journeys to develop a business in a way that isn't overwhelming for us. And that really marries with us as people and the way that we like to work, and our values and our energy. So Tara, how are you? Lovely to have you here.
I'd love to hear a bit. Thank you so much.
Tell us a bit about you and your why and what makes you sparkle.
Oh, Jeannie Mac. Well, firstly, I was so excited to do this, to hop on with you, Suzanne, to do this podcast. It's just lovely to have an opportunity to stop in my everyday and just talk about the things that I'm really passionate about in a different context. So thank you so much for inviting me onto this podcast. So I have been working with creative people for the last 6 years, nearly 7 years now. And the reason I started this was because I left school to be a painter. I went into art school with the joy of stepping into that cold room full of acrylic paint, the fumes going up my nose, that amazing feeling of being surrounded by creative people, and started my journey to be a painter. That was always the dream, as I thought back then. And I went into art school and quickly realized, where is the marketing department? How am I going to learn how to sell this stuff after I learn my craft? So this bothered me because I come from an entrepreneurial home where we used to sit around the dinner table thinking of new products and like how to help dad with his business. And, I used to do the posters, and we used to be out flyering, and, all of that forever. That was our environment at home. So my brain was wired for business from a very, very young early age. And so when I went into art school, as I do, I don't sit passively. I put my hand up. Can I talk to who's running the show here? Where's the marketing department? Did I miss the memo? And I was laughed at. And I quickly decided, oh, okay, so this environment doesn't celebrate that question, and it's as a 17-year-old, it makes me feel really uncomfortable to be laughed at, to ask in my head, such a normal question. So I quit art school. I quit the dream. I left art school. I didn't tell my parents for months because I was so scared that they would, feel disappointed, and you don't quit it. Well, we were always told, don't quit, keep going, but I knew in my heart I can't do this. So I pretended to go to art school for a long time, and I got a job in hospitality, and I worked in a really cool cafe, and I had the best time, and it was all great. And then, of course, when I told my parents, they supported me in all my decisions and understood and were really empathetic with what had happened. So I don't dwell on things like that too much, but it always followed me around. A, why did they laugh at me? I don't get that. It was an obvious question, right? And B, why was there no marketing department? Why are artists not being taught how to sell their stuff? I don't understand that missing piece. Now I do understand it, of course. I get the academic art world very well. I appreciate it. I respect it in all of it. But I also know that there are creative people conditioned to believe that if they say out loud that they want to make money from their work, they will be laughed at. They will be told, you're not supposed to think that. And that followed me around through my whole 20s, 30s and brought me to a space where I felt like I've run, 3 businesses, successful businesses. I have lots of business experience, and I want to help creatives because I think that needs to change. So that's why I'm here doing what I do right now.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'd never thought of it in that way, that in terms of creatives, they're not necessarily taught the business side. But on the flip side, Tara, you've got, I went to and studied accounting and finance, for example, and it was really mainstream. You couldn't think outside the box and come at it from a creative perspective. So it's similar in a way, but completely the opposite. And you really are traditionally pigeonholed into what you're doing.
That's right.
And there's no leeway there.
Yeah, and I feel like, to be fair, and I think there's a reason for that as well. From in the academic art world, they want focus and that almost consumption of the art and the practice, and they don't want people thinking commercially, and I understand that and I get that, but I'm from a viewpoint of choice and curiosity, and it's a choice that artists make. Do I want to go down the more commercial route, or do I want to go down more academic art route? And that's a choice that I think every artist should be allowed to discover and make, right? So I'm not sure in the accountancy world what the choices are, how that works.
So, I mean, well, I didn't stick with the accountancy like you. I thought I can't stick this. I'm a more a creative person. I like to come at it from different perspectives.
Yeah.
So I completed the degree, but then I went into banking and set up this business, co-working business 10 years later. So a bit of a convoluted route, but I learned things along the way, and it did ground me, but I never felt like I truly fitted in. And I think that's where a lot of the downfalls are on the academic side of education now, is they don't necessarily prepare you for the real world and the opportunities out there.
That's right. And there's so many of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing time in the world. Technology, like I'm really bad at technology. I think I break things all the time, but I love the opportunities it's bringing to us. I think it's a really exciting time to be in business. It's a really exciting time to be creative. I think people are paying attention more to creativity now from a lot of different viewpoints. I think it's really exciting for the sector. And, I think keeping ourselves curious, asking the questions, not being afraid to be laughed at, showing your vulnerability. And I think that's where courage comes in business and in life. Is it's okay to show your vulnerability. It's okay to ask the question and be laughed at. It's part of your journey of learning. And I think that's really an important message that I always talk to my students about.
Yeah, and I think it really helps you grow. And if you don't ask those questions, they'll always be niggling away at you as well.
They follow you around, don't they?
They really do. But you've worked, am I right in thinking you've worked with big names like the likes of Trinity Business School with what you do? Tell us a bit about that.
So I was approached by Trinity to lead the online learnings for their entrepreneurial postgrad program. And because I have always worked online, like my business, for the last 6 years, I've primarily worked online. And so all my skills were to develop the online curriculum and deliver online. And this is pre-COVID. So now we're all so used to this online world, right? And it kind of has, I'm like, wow, everyone knows how to use Zoom. Yay, it's so great. Because for me, it was always that, here's the button, press it, you're educating as you come into a class. So it's amazing to see, the pros of COVID, I guess. But Trinity asked me to come in to develop the curriculum with their team, and to take the online segment of the program. So of course, this is pre-COVID, as I said, so all the other segments were offline, and I was taking the online. So it was an amazing experience. The team was fantastic, and what I loved more about it than anything else was being in a space with people that cared about creative people. They cared. They want to break it's almost that pattern of the starving artist, or, the weird ones over there that are the dreamers that, they'll never make money, and totally on the same wavelength as me, but in an academic setting, which was really refreshing to me. And really scary for me, because I have a diploma. I don't have a degree. I don't have a PhD. I'm not from an academic background. After I quit art school, I set up I've always run businesses from the age of 19. I set up my first business when I was 19. And so when everyone else was in college, I was running a huge business with like 25 staff, who are all creatives, by the way, because they're all my art school friends that I employed. And so I've always done it that way. And so it was I felt very vulnerable going into Trinity to work with all the academics, thinking to myself, of course, Jeannie Mac, am I good enough for this? Do they know I don't even have a degree? But it didn't matter. They just saw what I was doing, the results I was getting for people, and how I delivered what I do. And it really woke me up to those, I guess, that internal critic, or that those self-limiting beliefs that you build over time. Just not having the things that you think make you something. So it was a great experience, and I really, really enjoyed the process. So
isn't it amazing how we think that we have to have that piece of paper? If you think of all the experience that we've built up through life and careers, and the people that we've met, we still have our doubts, and we think we're going to get found out because we don't have that piece of paper in our hands.
Yeah, I know.
And it's madness.
It is madness. It is. But I think for me, I would love to, maybe when I retire, to go back and do something in that space, just to get different viewpoints, just from a curiosity perspective, just to get different viewpoints, or what, and more so, what are they teaching them?
Good point.
What is being taught in there? And people that I work with come from, like, there's a few people that are in academia world. They're researchers, they're PhD people, and they're in the factory with me for their personal projects. And it's interesting. I'm always interested in, how does that work in there? Like, what are they teaching? And I'm like, that's interesting. So there's names for things that I teach just intuitively. And it's something that really hit me when I worked in Trinity. We all sat around talking about, critical thinking and what it is to be a creative, and, all these key, really interesting discussions. And the academic almost taglines or names for things, I was like, oh, so that's what you call it. Oh, I just do that, and it was so interesting, like the critical thinking movement. I'm doing that all the time, with my students, and how we look at problem solving, and and it's great to see the marry, I guess, when you're doing it just with your brain, without the academic piece plugged in. So it's interesting.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's interesting. I'm taking a deep dive this month into belonging and placemaking in the workplace. And I guess my big thing is really helping business owners, team heads find the right flexible working environments for their teams, and really take into account individual needs, values, and also not just the environment, but the people that you're surrounding yourselves with, be it colleagues, mentors, etc. Because I think unless you are in your best place, you can't give your best self. And the best place for one person isn't going to be the same for the other. So I guess my question for you is, how do you have new participants in the Biscuit Business School? How do you ground them and make sure that they are in the right environment, so to speak? How do you start?
So I believe that, and I built my business around the power of community, of who you surround yourself with, and also the importance of your environment, of how you turn up in your space, what it feels like. But I really think the important conversation is around yourself to begin with. So how do you turn up for yourself? Are you plugging self-care into your life? Do you have healthy boundaries around your well-being, your work, your family life? Because if we're not looking after ourselves, no beautiful space around us or amazing peers, they'll only tip the surface. We have to begin with us as an individual that's driving the whole thing. And I feel like, and that's something that I do, and we do continually with our students, is self-love. It's the ritual of self-care, like you going to the gym in the morning. That makes your body feel good. It makes you put healthy boundaries around how you feel about yourself. And I feel like when we do that self-work, it makes us pay attention to our environment. I'm going to choose, I respect myself. I know I need this type of environment to be productive. I know I need to surround myself with like-minded people or peers or mentors that can support me. But until we know that and give ourselves that from a place of love rather than, oh, I have to do this, or oh, I better do it because everyone else is doing it. It comes from a different place. But when we really fall in love with ourselves and put that at the center, I think that opens up a real flow with how we choose where we sit in our workplace and also who we engage with. So I think it has to start with our individual person.
I completely get that. And I know, I mean, especially for the people that you would work with, they need that energy in terms of being creative. How can you not be creative if you're not in the right space and you haven't got that energy within you? And I notice myself, because I have those boundaries and I guess the structure and the self-care, that when my energy dips, and it does, you know, your body moves and your life moves with the ebbs and flows of changing things are always happening. I notice my energy dipping, but because I have those boundaries and the structure, I know the trigger points. I know the telltale signs of what's happening. You know, if I stop doing yoga one day, or I don't know, if I've changed what I'm eating, or if I've got something big coming up, often my energy will dip because I'm not good in big groups, for example. So I know the trigger points and I know what to make sure I'm doing in order to self-care and get that energy back up again.
It's so important. And it's self-awareness, isn't it, Suzanne? Like, it's just knowing yourself. And I feel like sometimes I feel like people are always searching for the golden bullet or the quick fix. If I go here, I'll feel great. Or if I talk to that person, I'm going to feel great. And you do for a period of time. That's the thing. You do get that hit of endorphins from, you know, talking to that inspiring person. And then what happens? So then you come home or you come back to your space and then and it feels like a downer because they're not around you anymore. So you're always left with yourself and your own energy to actually execute on what you've been inspired by or think about, you know, from being in a meeting or from learning something. And I feel like we're with ourselves more than anybody else. So instead of wanting other things to fix us, we have to start on the inside with ourselves. And even if it's something simple like giving yourself just 15 minutes quiet time every day, just to sit and do nothing, not go on the phone, not listen to a podcast, not meditate, not put yourself under any pressure, just sit. And that's it. It's really hard.
And even put that in your diary.
That's right. Have
just
it
a little
there.
bit of planning every day.
Yeah, that's right.
For me, if I can just tick 3 things off, that's fantastic. But I am an introverted person. I really am. I'm good in my own space.
Yeah.
I can work away to a certain point, but then I do need people around me.
Yeah.
I know when I've gone too far, okay, I can't face that networking thing. I just can't do it because I'm so used to my own company.
That's right.
And my confidence are just completely depleted. So I have to make sure there are people around, hence co-working spaces. And I mix that with working from home. For me, it's that I have to have that balance.
And it's great that those facilities are there. Like I'm the same. I've always worked from home, and I get into that routine as well of I'll just keep working and I'm happy out and I'm talking to thousands of people every week, and that's but nothing beats the physical energy of people when you're around people. And I love the work and I love the business that you're in, and they're around me here now as well of just having other people around you that are doing kind of the same thing. They're running businesses, they're in team, like there's an energy there that your body needs, I think. But it's so easy to get complacent with it. It's so easy because we get into that. I think even for extroverts, like you just get into a habit,
But I think of often business owners, big companies, they can get complacent about how different teams within their businesses need to operate and have different personalities, let alone the individual themselves. They pigeonhole teams in certain ways of working. It doesn't work for everyone, and they're not going to get the best out of them.
That's right.
And it works 2 ways. They're not going to be as productive, but they're also not going to give their ideas and really create and blossom like they could do for the business.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, more and more now, there's, a real focus on bringing creativity into the workplace, like for bigger companies, and how to do that. And the old school kind of mindset is, well, I'll give them more rewards. I'll give them, more money. We'll put a ping pong machine in, or whatever that looks like, right? And I really think to foster creativity, we have to look at intrinsic motivators, the things that trigger people internally, that passion that makes them feel fulfilled or makes them feel important, not based on material things, not based on money, not that they matter. Like that their voice matters, like. And I think giving people that or facilitating that as a company is the way forward. I think it's the only way to foster creativity and have happier people at work,
And do you think it starts in the schools? Was it Ken Robinson I was listening to?
Ken Robinson,
yeah. The other day saying, the kids are getting to the age of 8, 9, and the creative side is just completely eradicated from their education. If they ask a question, what are you asking that for? A bit like you said when you were at university.
Yeah.
And then their confidence is just completely knocked. I can remember I was really confident, primary school, loved it, happy-go-lucky, got to about the second year in senior school, and that was it. The stuffing was knocked out of me.
Yeah.
And I was an introvert ever since, and I've never known why. It's just how I am. I've accepted that and worked within my personality.
But and was there a moment that
I can't pinpoint it. I just remember having the stuffing knocked out of me, lost my confidence, and I had all these thoughts and these creative ideas going on. I just couldn't get them out.
Yeah. It wasn't fostered.
I just don't want that for children anymore, because there are so many ideas out there. They can make up. Look what's happening in the world now. The new technology. They could make up a job that doesn't even exist now.
Yeah,
go out there
like that. I know, and that's the beauty, and we need to learn from children too. And I think just from being a mother, I always make a point of, and it's kind of my self-care stuff as well, is play. Like, instead of cleaning the floor, get down and play with them. Like, even this morning we had The Greatest Showman on, and This Is Me. I always cry at that. I just love that movie.
Song.
This Is Me, the girl with the beard that was anyway. And myself and my son have a dance routine, and we had a blaring, all the people passing the house going to we live next to our school. They were like, what's happening in there? And we just had a disco, just singing and dancing just for that 10 minutes, and it was just set us up for the day. And we left the house with a big smile on our faces, and I think adults forget to have fun and to play. And I just feel it's the rubbish will be there always. Prioritize playtime, fun time, because it triggers the childlike in you for your day. And when we go back to child, we access our creativity, because the way the child views the world, there's no inhibitions, thoughts come freely with no self-judgment, and play triggers that.
And storytelling. I mean, storytelling in business is a big thing. But if I can go back to what was I doing as a child, where time would just go, it was dinner time before you knew it.
Yeah.
And you think about what you were doing back then. And I have carried some of those things through. And that's what triggers storytelling and ideas and creativity for me. And music will be a big thing for me. So my son's a big guitar player, electric guitar player. He's more acoustic now, and he's just recently started really getting into the singing bit, which my daughter hates. Just slam the door, quiet. Not so polite, slam the door. But no, I love it, and I'm singing away, and it really relaxes me.
It does. And music is amazing. It's so good for us.
It triggers so many different emotions.
Yeah, that's right. But I think adults forget that, don't they? And I think it's an interesting thing, even in hubs like your hub, Suzanne, is bringing those fun factors in, the things that we might forget about, even conversations around that for people. So when they do come home, that they're aware of it, and that it's you don't have to buy a big product or do a digital course on having fun or have speakers come in. It's at home. You just, even if you don't have children, you can still play at home. Once you're in your space, just go back to being a child for half an hour every evening,
Yeah. And then a good friend, mentor of mine, Eve Early, Empowering Change.
Oh, yeah.
She does a lot of work around the book, The Artist's Way.
Oh, yes.
And she's always talked about making sure that you have an artist date every week.
Yes.
So doing something for yourself that you wouldn't normally do, even if it's just taking a walk.
Yes, that's right.
Looking back at photos.
Yeah.
Sketching,
so beautiful.
Journaling.
So beautiful. Journaling.
Just something simple.
Yeah.
It takes your mind to a different place.
That's right. And it's just not, it's getting off the hamster wheel of getting up, getting ready, going to work, coming home, watching TV. I mean, that's all fine, but does it feed you with what you really need? And that's where we need to stop and pay attention to our bodies and how our bodies feel and what that looks like, and how we can change just small things. Even, okay, instead of coming home, throwing on Netflix after my dinner, I'll go for a walk. I'll go out and hug a tree. If I don't want to go for hugging trees is so lovely.
Yeah.
And so simple. And I'll come back in, and then I'll throw myself on the couch and chill. But just put in one little bit of nature into your routine every day, and you'll feel the benefit. And then you'll want to increase that time in nature or increase that time with play, because you feel so good from it.
Birdsong. I love going outside listening to birdsong.
Nice. Oh, lush. So nice.
So Tara, we've talked about having a self-awareness and really getting to know yourself as an individual. So coming back to what you do, the Biscuit Business School, tell me about other ways that you help develop, mentor business owners.
So we do it in a few different ways. The first way, which is really important to Biscuit, is our community. So we have a Facebook group called Bite the Biscuit, and we've just passed 10,000 members. It's a fantastic resource. It's free. People can come in and network with each other, ask questions. Like, everyone's super helpful, really positive space. And I know, and look, I'm always paying attention to what people are talking about around social media, and specifically groups, because Bite the Biscuit is so important to what we do. And, the big fear around groups is, if I ask that question, or if I post up that, I'll get ridiculed, I'll get criticized, it'll be pulled down, and I'll feel ashamed, or I won't feel good enough. And we foster an incredible online environment that is so friendly, so positive, so welcoming. No, this is our mantra: no question is a stupid question. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Show off Friday is our most popular day, where whether you drew a line on a page and wanted to show that off, you do it. You start somewhere, and there's people always supporting you in there. Up to people that are just got accepted to the RHA and are, want to show that off, and everyone celebrates them too, and everything in between. So there's no hierarchy. It's about loving yourself as a creative person and supporting your community. And it's just an incredible space for anyone that is missing that in their lives, because for a lot of us, we're lucky, we are surrounded by creative people, but for many, and I hear this all the time, a lot of people don't have creative people in their lives. Like, their family and friends don't get what they do, and they're quite alone and lonely in that process. So that Bite the Biscuit group is a great starting point. And then the Biscuit Business School is a place that you can go through curriculum of modules, like learning how to use the Instagram app in really easy videos, to grabbing templates that you can use on social media. There's lots of do-it-yourself workshops and programs in there. And then the Biscuit Factory, which is the love of my life. Don't tell my husband that. And that's our membership community. So that's where I mentor my students. There's almost 100 of us in there now, all really ambitious, supportive, creative business owners, from jewelry makers to painters to designers to graphic people to music people to dancers. I mean, it's just a melting pot. It's just photographers. It's incredible in there. And so every week I mentor, which is like on a Zoom call. There could be 30 of us, there could be 10 of us, there could be 100 of us, and we troubleshoot what's happening in people's businesses. And that's how I do that. And we have accountability calls as well to keep people on track with their businesses, which is really important, because we can learn all the things, we can read all the things, we can watch YouTube videos till the cows come home, but we need accountability to actually take action on these things that we're learning. So that's really important inside the factory as well.
Yeah, no, we really do.
Yeah.
What about if you're not in a mainstream, if there's such a thing as a mainstream creative business? Say you are doing, I don't know if you know Carmel's theory. She's an accounting business, but she comes out of it from a really, really creative angle, perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Do you work with people like her at all?
We don't have any accountants in our space. I don't usually work with not by choice, but they've never come to me. I could, because I mean, business in its essence is like what you teach from a foundation perspective is similar to every business. It's knowing your product, knowing your customer, how that all works. But the difference between, say, someone like Carmel, who I know actually, and who has done a workshop with me, and say the people like the artists inside my group, or photographers or jewelry people, is the intrinsic motivator, like we talked about earlier. It's that they are not driven by money. They're not driven by status or validation from other people. Creative people in their essence are in a love affair with their practice. So when they practice, nothing else matters.
It's almost like that. It's their being, their whole purpose.
It's everything to them. So whether they, and you'll often hear creative people saying, I would happily give away my work for free. And that's something I'm trying to change. but I think it's a beautiful thing. And we celebrate that because they are consumed with their work. It's almost like, it's like a preoccupation. It's regardless of the outcome, it's the practice of it that they are in love with. And like every love affair, you know, there's ups and downs, there's trauma, there's fighting with, and all of these things happen with a creative and their work. And the important point is when that work is taken away, or they ignore it, or they turn their back to it, poison comes in, mental health issues come in. They have to practice. So I think there's a distinction between a creative accountant like Carmel, who's amazing, but if Carmel stopped accountancy in the morning, would she get depressed? I don't know. I must ask her that. Like, is she that consumed by it? Practitioners are consumed with their work. It's their life, it's their self-care, it's everything to them. It's their love affair, right? And I think that's the difference.
That's fascinating. Never thought of it like that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because people don't. And I feel like, you know, I feel like because creativity it's kind of the buzzword, isn't it? And we're, you know, and being creative, and we're all trying to foster creativity, which is amazing. And I think, you know, creativity can be so many different things, but when you're looking at an actual creative person, they're different. Like they think differently, they dream differently, they like. And I've had thousands of conversations with thousands of creative people over the last 6 years, like, and there's a thread that I see all the time. It's like we are different in how we think. You know, we come up with really weird ideas. We like ideas that people would kind of absurd ideas, like, you know, but our brains are wired differently. I believe.
And you know, you're right, because you really can see if you've got a creative person and whatever they do is taken away from them, or they stop practicing. Yeah. It's almost as if you see the blood drain from them.
Yeah.
You know, their energy is zapped.
That's right. And it's funny, Suzanne, like when I started my business, and what really drives me all the time, you know, and from a very simplistic viewpoint, I just want happier people in the world, specifically happier creative people, because I see so many creative people suffer because they have to do the jobs that they hate and squash their practice in the evenings or at the weekends to even feel normal. And that's a huge problem in the creative sector, and it causes so much angst and pain. And I feel like, well, if we teach creative people how to build a business around their practice, the thing that they're in love with, how many more happier people will there be in the world? And there's a knock-on effect with that, isn't there? I think that's really important.
Could you take that into schools, please?
I know. I know
there are wonderful things and wonderful projects and organisations happening in schools, but they just need that extra push.
I know, and it's an ongoing conversation, isn't it? Yeah. But I feel like, you know, even even if you're not in the creative sector, and and it's going back to that play thing as well, that we can all tap into our childlike creativity. We mightn't be obsessed with it, or get depressed if we don't play. Like it doesn't hold us like it would with a creative person, but we can still access, obviously, creativity and have fun with it. And I feel like the more we talk about creativity in a positive way, talk about creatives in a positive way, like the narrative that I hear all the time coming back from older people that are now building their businesses, that have gone, retired, or their families have grown up and now they're self-care. What do I want to do? Creatives were the vagabonds. They were the dreamers. They haven't a clue what's going on. They're a waste of space. They'll never make money. They're crap at business. That's the thing. That's the thing that the creative sector it's compounded into the psyche, and that has to change. And it can change by just how we turn up and talk to our children about creative people, bringing them to art galleries, looking at art in books, and talking about just alternative things with them, and I think just those small changes can make a huge impact for how people perceive creative people in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And music and theatre, and if you can get them to those places, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm really excited about the workplace moving forward, and the different ways that we can use our personalities and really showcase our skills. So you've got podcasting, you've got online memberships, online courses. You don't have to go and give that talk person to face in front of hundreds of people if it scares the living daylights out of you.
Yeah.
Which it would do me even now. I've been running this business for 10 years, but I still struggle with that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think everybody does, Suzanne.
Yeah, you have to find your platform and your way of teaching and sharing what you know.
But I think everybody struggles with that. Like, even I get butterflies in my tummy when doing my boot camps. Like, there was 120 of us on the boot camp, the last boot camp, and it was, the screen lights up with 120 people looking at you. And like, I anchor that straight away, remembering vulnerability is your superpower. Like, it's not a negative thing. It's actually you turning up and being courageous. And I think calling things out as they are and being you and turning up as you are, I think people respond really, really well to that. And I feel like the more of us that do that, it almost opens up the opportunity for other people to say, oh, I can do that too. Like, I don't have to pretend when I don't feel it, and I think it's an interesting one. But I also feel like, a thing that I do that really helps me with that one, when I'm, doing offline stuff, which is far more intimidating than online, because you're in your environment that you've controlled and you have your candle, and you can do your breathing and all this stuff before you go on. But when you're out in the wild west of around humans out there, and it's quite challenging because anything can happen. You're not as in control of your environment as you are at home, obviously, or in your office, but you are in control of something, and I feel this is important. If you do suffer from that, try to take you out of it. So separating you as yourself away from your message, and remembering people are there to listen to the words that you're saying, to feel inspired by you, to learn from you. And I find that really powerful for when I'm getting the heebie-jeebies about turning up, doing something. This isn't really about me. I'm delivering this message that's important for people to listen to. And yes, I am the thing that's delivering it, but people aren't judging me. And if they do, that's out of my control. All I can control is turning up and making sure they listen, because this is important. The end. And that's all I think about. And it really helps.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Tara, this has been absolutely amazing. Tell me, tell the audience where they can find out more about you.
So I'm on Instagram, Biscuit Community. So you can go on Instagram and find me over there. And also Bite the Biscuit is the Facebook group. So if you're a creative running a business or thinking about it, it's a great starting point. And then the biscuitfactory.ie is my main website, and the biscuitbusinessschool.com is the other website. So there's a few places going on there.
Wonderful. Well, Tara, thank you so much for your time. Wish you all the success for any future projects you're working on. Lovely talking to you, and thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget that all the episodes and links are on our website, thehubnewry.com. While you're there, you can stay tuned with what we're up to by subscribing to our mailing list. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and thanks again for being here. Powering Productivity is presented by me, Suzanne Murdock, and produced by Emily Crosby Media.